Welcome to tonight's professional seminar, How to Be the CEO of Your Artistry. For those I don't know, my name is Illana Stein, and I'm a board member with the League of Professional Theater Women, a co-producer and a moderator for tonight's program. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm Zooming to you from New York. A reminder that tonight's program is being recorded, and we have turned on closed captioning. For those new to the League, the League of Professional Theater Women is a membership organization championing women in theater and advocating for increased equity and access for all theater women. Our programs and initiatives create community, cultivate leadership, and increase opportunities and recognition for women working in theater. If you're interested in learning further about the League or about membership, please visit the link to our website that we'll put in the chat. If you have membership questions, also check out the chat, and you can look at the link membership@theaterwomen.org. The League's professional seminars are programs open to anyone. Experienced guest panelists lead seminars for members and guests focusing on a wide range of topics relevant to having a successful theater career through a moderated Q&A. So if you're a member, welcome. I see many familiar faces. And if you are new, we are glad to introduce you to the League. The last professional seminar was Artist as Activist, The Power of Personal Story, led by Yvette Heiliger. And the next professional seminar is scheduled for April 20th. If you would like to sign up for the League's newsletter to learn about future programming, please email us at the email address in the chat. And that brings us to right now. Thank you to my co-producing partners, Alison Chace and Annie Chadwick. Both you will meet throughout the program. Tonight's professional seminar is also in association with Actors Connection. Actors Connection is a professional development hub for actors that offers programming for performers looking to advance their careers. Tonight, I will introduce you to each of our panelists. I will ask them each a few curated questions, and we'll end the night with taking questions from the audience. Alison will be collecting your questions in the chat. Please note the specific panelists you have a question for, and we'll do our best to get to as many questions as we can. Please do use the chat. We'll be sharing resources all night. You're welcome to share kind comments with our panelists who will be following along. Annie Chadwick is a career consultant, actress, and CEO of Up-to-Date Theatricals, LLC. She also gets credit for the title of today's program, How to Be the CEO of Your Artistry, because she uses this question when she works with her own clients. Annie, you're the perfect person to kick things off by introducing yourself and answering that question. What makes a person the CEO of their artistry?
Thank you, Illana. Oh, wow. It's thrilling to be on this panel with so many dynamite theatrical women entrepreneurs, and also among all of the super successful artists in our audience. My company, Up-to-Date Theatricals, LLC, and our new digital service, the Up-to-Date Actor, is a mother-daughter owned and operated business. Through our publications, workshops, one-on-one consultations, and the Up-to-Date Actor, our mission is to inspire, motivate, and awaken artists of all ages to their unique talents and abilities to ultimately achieve their highest potential as performing artists. We call our new Up-to-Date Actor, which was created by my coding daughter, Abigail Harden, the ultimate 24/7 personal assistant that gives artists the tools to be the CEO of their careers. To answer your question, Illana, an artist who has a CEO mindset is a person who takes full ownership of the vision, goals, and success of the company, which in this case is you. Too often, I see artists give away their power to agents, managers, casting directors, you name it. But the person who sees themselves as their own artistic CEO changes their relationship to the entertainment industry. It demystifies it. You are no longer powerless to evolve your own careers, but you are empowered to create your own opportunities, open your own doors, and ultimately boldly play center stage in your artistry. These are the artists that inspire me and who I want to collaborate with.
Fantastic. Thank you, Annie. And we're going to learn more about your business later on. I'm going to introduce our next panelist. Hansel Jung has been a longtime writer with Mai. You may have seen her play Wild Goose Dreams, an evocative and visually stunning piece that went up at the Public Theater. Now, Hansel is getting critical recognition once again for her play Wolf Play, currently in previews, and I mean this week in previews at NCC, back for a second life after sold out run at Soho Rep. It's already selling out. We'll plug it again, but now's the time to get tickets. Hansel is also a supervising producer on Pachinko on Apple TV. Gorgeous storytelling. Also check that out. Welcome, Hansel. If you'll introduce yourself and tell us what makes someone the CEO of your artistry.
I don't know that I've ever thought of myself as a CEO of anything. It's quite capitalist in a way that I don't really excel at thinking, but I think a lot about agency. I think a lot about, about how I come to respect myself, and I think that the engine behind that is to remain the most open I can about my impulses and the things I need to create, and not fighting against the urge to fit myself into what other people want or what the industry seems to want, but to follow my impulses and populate my world with those who will support that and create with me. Don't know if that was a helpful answer, but that's
yeah. I've heard you talk about how important it is having a writer's group with Mai. Has that helped you find your voice in all of this? How has that played a part?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm also I'm a writer, so that's very different than I'm a primary generator of plays that I own, which is very different than other parts of theater. So I do own that. But in terms of populating my world, absolutely. I think every writer needs their writer's group. I think you need your tribe to grow up with you as your ideas grow and organically change.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hansel. So we put yeah, go ahead.
Was I supposed to do things like name and pronoun and all that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
She, her. And Hansel Jung. That's my name.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll talk to Hansel in a little bit. Next up, we have Nell Nugent. She has been named one of the most prolific producers on Broadway, 5-time award-winning producer. I'm going to name plays. What? Tony Award winning. Yes, left a big word out there. Tony Award winning producer. Thank you, Nell.
Many other awards.
Yes. Amadeus, Mornings at 7, Elephant Man, The Life and Adventures of Nicholas Nickleby and Dracula. To throw out another title that you might be familiar with, Night Mother. One of her most recent producing credit is Colored Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. Nell has 2 Obies, 2 New York Drama Critics Award, numerous film and TV awards, and was the co-producer for the East Coast chapter of the Producers Guild of America. Welcome, Nell.
Thank you so much, but I want Hansel to see this.
Yes. Did you just go to the show?
No, it came up next in the stuff that I read when I come home. So you're up next.
That's what I didn't see. What you
I'm so excited when I found out you were on the program tonight because I'm so looking forward to reading your play.
Oh,
was that play? I didn't. It showed up white.
Do you want to hold it up again now? It's hard to see. It's your play.
Yes.
It's yours. It says Wolf Play by Hansel Jung. The last time I looked, that was you, good lady.
Fantastic.
I'm looking forward to reading it tonight, particularly after meeting you.
Yes.
And I wish you such great, good fortune with it.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
probably see it too. I read a lot and see a lot.
I hope you do. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, I do.
So now you have 5 decades of experience in theater, beginning as a replacement.
You had to blab that, really.
I think, well, it's an honor that we have you here because you have over 70 producing credits between Broadway and touring productions, and you're obviously
and the West End. Don't forget the West End.
And the West End, and you're very revered in this field. So throwing this question to you, what makes someone the CEO of their artistry?
You know what? I don't know what the question means. I think the most important thing for producers is after you put together the entire creative team, you step back and let them talk to each other. And then you figure out where it's all actually going. I mean, for me my current play, we're going into rehearsal shortly. Ruben Santiago Hudson is directing. I'm supposed to tell Ruben how to direct? I don't think so. But the point is that we're a collaboration, and the producer and the creative people are hopefully in a meaningful collaboration so that, in a meaningful collaboration so that the creative people's vision can be served. At the same time, the damn budget can get served.
Yeah.
I'm out.
No, it's great. Because you also consider yourself a collaborator in the room. There are producers who write the check and aren't involved in the process, but that's different than your job that you take on.
Well, first of all, the producer is the guardian of the budget. So it's important to make sure you adhere to the budget, or if the creatives want to exceed the budget in one area, they will give up budget in another area, because you can't go over budget. Can't happen. Or at least I don't think so.
Great. Amazing. We have lots of
that
questions.
demands a certain amount of knowledge, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Now we have more questions for you in a bit. Next up, we have Mfaniso, whose work has been seen at ACT New York Theater Workshop, Playwrights Realm, Magic Theater, National Black Theater, Strand Theater Company, and Boston Court. She's the playwright of Sojourners, Run Boy Run, Her Poor Pontenue, co-executive producer of Let the Right One In, supervising producer on A League of Their Own, and co-producer on Little America. So another very long bio, which is why we put her website in the chat. Please get to know her work as well. Welcome. You're also having quite a moment right now. I've heard you say that you don't want a moment, but a movement, and you've written a play with a 9-part saga. So I feel like you're helping lead that charge. So turning it over to you. What makes someone the CEO of their artistry?
Well, I'm going to get all the technical stuff done, my technical stuff, so I'm going to share hers. I am zooming in also from East Flatbush, Brooklyn. And the question was, what does it mean to be my own CEO? And I think I'm a little like Nell and Hansel, where I kind of shred against the question, because when I think of myself, I don't necessarily think of myself with the words chief executive officer, because it does kind of lead me to capital, and that's kind of stressful when I'm thinking about art. And so for myself, I think I might use words like founder, artistic director, chief curator, and even then that gets squidgy in my head. But I think it's like getting at to like what it is to like hold the reins of who you are and what you're doing. So for me, if it's like, how do I understand what it means to hold the reins of my own artistry? I kind of, and this is coming from all like the teaching work that I've done. It's a lot of like setting my own narrative and mission for my art and my art making, and making sure that I am on track for what my own narrative and mission is. Also, with how much I'm doing lately, it's like setting the trajectory and the pace for how I grow. And then as I get longer in the game, it's like also setting the pace for how I go, and like becoming a boundary setter. So knowing when to say no, because no art can be made without like the artist. So that is what I think that means to me. I think I did it. So I'm gonna turn off my camera.
You did it. You did it.
I
You
did it.
masterly. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll be back with you with more questions. So our last panelist is Jonah Shao. She is an actress with an endless list of credits. Check out her IMDb page that we'll put in the chat. One credit particularly that you may recognize is the voice of young Namaari in Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon. Jonah is also a producer and founder of Career Activate, which you'll hear about very soon. Welcome, Jonah.
Thank you. I'm zooming in from Los Angeles, even though I was originally made in China. And when it comes to what does it mean to be the CEO of your own artistry? To me, it means being 100% responsible for exactly where you are in your career right now and owning all of your decisions. So I always say that there's a guaranteed formula for success in this business. All right. And it's as simple as A, B, and C. A game mentality plus business know-how plus craft equals success. If you are super strong in all three of those areas, I can't imagine a world in which you aren't successful. So as an example, one of our clients, Angelica Washington, was someone who had been trying to book her first TV credit for years and years and years and was juggling 3 side jobs when she first started working with us. And so for her, her craft was strong. So the C part of that formula. And then she really started focusing on the A and B, which were pretty weak at that time. So she really focused on honing in on her branding, networking, pitching, getting the right reps for her. So really taking control of her career. And she ended up auditioning for a series regular on an Amazon show. And she was working her telemarketing job that she hated at the time. And she kept getting these calls from her agent, but she didn't check them until she was on her break. She goes on break. And her agent finally was able to get a hold of her. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I was at my telemarketing gig. Like, what's up? And she was like, well, you can quit that job and all of your other day jobs because you booked it. And then right there on the sidewalk, she started like crying and like almost hyperventilating because everything that she had wanted was like finally happening and she was about to live her dream. And so that was like a huge moment for her. And it was an example of a tangible thing that happens once you really take ownership and you are the CEO of your own artistry. And nowadays she's a TV star and a DC superhero. So she really mastered being the CEO of her own artistry. So it's a really inspiring story.
Love that. Can you put the ABCs in the chat for us?
Sure,
and maybe
absolutely.
say it for us one more time. That sounds fantastic.
Sure. It's A game mentality plus business know-how plus craft equals success. I'll put that in the chat.
Amazing. Oh, you're so quick. Fantastic. So we're going to talk to Jonah in a little bit about your business and how that all began. But so glad to have you and welcome.
Thank you.
Great. So now we have specific questions for each of our panelists. I'm going to start with Nell and dig into some producing juicy questions that we have. And first of all, I would just say this is one of these moments that I wish we were all in the room together because these panelists are fantastic. And I know that we would just applaud having the quality of panelists that we're able to get here tonight. So thank you again to our panelists for giving your time and energy to this event. There's lots of love already for all of you in the chat. So I hope you're following along. And we've invited each of them here because of their particular insight into their artistic discipline. So Nell, if you want to come back on camera, love to talk to you a bit more.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure an actor such as we were just discussing is really in charge of their own careers. I mean, she happened to pick up an email, but this is in terms of the producing world, it's one of the lowest rungs on the ladder. So while I admire what you're doing, I think what's happening is not all that useful. Sorry, but I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there is truth to that. I think we all get to a point though that we want to take the agency that we can. So we hear from those in the business who've took it, in many different paths, from a playwright to an actor to a veteran producer such as yourself. So absolutely, there is absolute truth in what you said. And also maybe there's some other nuggets and some inspiration that we can
I
glean from
think
other
I
people.
think it's, forgive me, it's totally different for actors and producers unless you're the rare actor, producer, or producer director, such as Hal Prince was, or whatever. It's a different mutation. So I'm just throwing that in, though I applaud your agency for being persistent with that young woman who was working her tail off and getting her a great gig. Good on you.
Absolutely. All right. So when you started producing, it was called maybe quote unquote a boys club. So we know that you've had to come some adversity in your career. I'd just love for you to share some of those stories and what were the positive takeaways.
Whoa, wait a minute. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was working as an actor originally because I didn't know, frankly, there were any other jobs in theater. It's all I saw. But I loved theater. But over the years that I was in college and whatever, and after, I discovered all these other amazing jobs and finally landed up as a stage manager. What they forgot to tell me is women weren't stage managers in 1960 when I got out of school. I lucked out. I was persistent. And what I have to say is my motto has always been PPO. Persistence pays off. And having come into New York after, I guess, 6 summers of stock, I knew a lot of people in 1960 and hit them all up and got a job fairly quickly, actually within 3 weeks, as an assistant stage manager off Broadway. I won't even ask you all to guess the equity minimum for assistant stage manager off Broadway. It was $20 a week. But you know, eventually I decided off Broadway was enough and turned to Broadway. But no one wanted a female stage manager. But in the stock the season before, I'd met a couple of Broadway producers, Hal Prince and Howard Erskine, and they wanted me to come on to their show as it was called production secretary then. It wasn't called production assistant. So I bitched about it and said no a million times till I finally asked how much did it pay. It paid about $30 more a week than a production stage manager off Broadway. Problem was, I didn't know how to take shorthand, but I sure as hell knew how to type. So went to the Speed Writing Institute in 5 weeks, learned how to take shorthand. And my first Broadway job as, as a production assistant, but later assistant stage manager, was on a show that was vilified by everybody and turned out to be Any Wednesday. It ran slightly over 1,000 performances. I was taken off it immediately by the producers who wanted to put me on another one of their shows, but that was fine.
That's amazing.
It's the skills you have. Use everything. And if you don't have the skill, all these smart women I'm looking at in their names, a number of whom I know, you can learn it in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but persistence, I mean, that's a big one.
PPO, persistence pays off.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw you a curveball question because I've heard your Dracula story, and I think it does tie into persistence and being in the right place at the right time. Would you share that with us?
Well, at that time, I lived on West 87th Street, and I had a small Yorkie, and I would walk the dog over and walk the dog back, and would run into a guy named John Wolfe, and he was talking about doing Dracula with Edward Gorey Designs and with Frank Langella, and I was really excited for him. And then I'm walking the dog one morning and he says, he looks terrible. I mean, he looks like he'd been run over by a car. Turns out that his financing had dropped out. So I said, come by the office. Liz and I had left Nederlander at the time, Liz McCann, and I had left Nederlander at the time. We had a number of shows that we were general managing, but none that we were producing. So he came by, so we decided we'd take it on. I found out later that Liz didn't know who the hell Edward Gorey was. And the rest was showbiz history. It was our first show. It was a mega hit. It starred Frank Langella. We were at the then Martin Beck Theater, which is on the wrong side of 8th Avenue. It didn't matter. And, you know, the old joke about, can you be born lucky or smart? I'll pick lucky every time.
That's great. So there's lots of self-producers who are here hanging on to your every word. There's not a lot of definites in this career, but what are some hard or fast rules that you've learned along the way that you can offer as advice?
Oh, that's a long one. I can really say the most important thing is, if you've decided you're going to do it, put your head down and do it. I mean, so many people will say no, but what you really want to hear is the one little weak yes. That's all. And you can parlay that yes into so many other things. It's really important. And I think you don't have to be alone originally. You can hook yourself up with another producer who's established, but say, you know, I like what you do. I'm loving what I'm hearing about your show. Could we talk about my coming on as a co-pro? As long as I have access, that's the important part, meaning to you.
What do you mean? Access to the producer?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes. And I've discovered over the years that my co-pros are fabulous. They have hidden virtues that are amazing. I tell the tale of one show that shall remain nameless. We really needed a study guide, and we were on a meeting, and one of the co-pros said, well, I have a degree, a higher degree in education. I said, hello, do you want to take charge of the cup? She made the best guide you'd ever seen. It was absolutely wonderful. How did I know? I included her. I think the inclusion is very important to all of you who want to be producers. You must insist on inclusion.
What do you mean by that?
That you can listen in on meetings, talk to people, get attend meetings, what's the word? Have your voice heard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've come up with that was just one story. But I have had so many co-pros over the years who have become so useful in their individual knowledge, which is so specialized that it's benefited the show.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nell. I've heard you say before that if it's going to work as an art, it has to be a business.
Well, that's not me. That's Sir Henry Irving.
Right.
He's a late 19th century actor producer in England. If it cannot succeed as a business, it will fail as an art.
Exactly.
I give it to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for that important lesson. So we will check in with Nell a little bit later. I'm sure you have questions for Nell. Thanks so much, Nell. And I feel like we could, really talk to you for hours. So I'm going to put one more thing in the chat, which is I discovered an interview that Nell had with Ken Davenport, where she really digs into the art of producing. So if you want to hear more of Nell's stories, that's where I found the nugget about Dracula and just more tips on how Nell picks her shows and what art speaks to her. That's another place to check that out, or maybe we'll hear more about that from you later now.
Thank you, Illana. Send you a little bit as a press agent next week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, moving on. We have Mfoniso and Hansel. These are our working artists with some big projects on the horizon. For both of you, this is a hard question, but can you think back to a single moment that moved the needle in your career?
You want to go?
Sure, Hansel, way to pass that over. So I'm gonna be my honest, truthful self going. I read that question, sat with it for a little while, and I kind of bucked against it only because my career has been a composite, many breaks, some of which look innocuous and some of which have like a shine and luster on them that I feel like people are, oh, that must have been the thing. So I don't know that it was like, I'll tell you what the seminal things were more than the thing that moved the needle, and because they all kind of do when you're working this way. I mean, I guess one of the ones for me was the first time I went, I became part of a reading series with, I believe it was 48 hours, something. I'm actually forgetting. There's so much in my brain right now. But Jonathan McCrory, Eric Lockley, Sandra Daly, people like that, they were all the producers on it. And I was like an unknown who was doing something next to Dominique Morisseau. So that was the very first time. It was like a paltry paycheck, and I was just excited to be there. I was like, y'all, I exist. This is great. And then you've got the stuff that like got me an agent, and that's like that came from going to Sundance. So, but I didn't get that Sundance thing without the first small break as well. So I kind of look at them all in a line and hold it all together, and then hope to keep breaking, because I don't think you ever stop breaking into a thing.
And was that 48 Hours in Harlem, Shannon?
Thank you.
Yeah.
My brain. Thank you. It was 48 Hours in Harlem. What I ended up doing was naming like the producers on it. So yeah, that was it.
Thank you, Shannon, for that. Oh, okay. So then Sundance, you found an agent because they saw that reading?
No, that's what I mean. It's like I did that one reading, which then led to somebody in that audience seeing me and then becoming a part of a writers group, which then led to being pipelined for other writers groups, which then that writers group helped shore up a play that helped me then get into Sundance, and then getting into Sundance helped me get an agent. You see, like it's a stacking effect for me. At least that's how I feel it. So I don't know what moved the needle. They all are pushing something forward.
Did you feel that internally as that was happening?
Listen, I just get excited. Most of the time I'm like, I'm excited to be here and be alive. So I was excited because I remember part of what moved the needle, I guess, is also like, I called up Dominique Morisseau and was like, I want to be a playwright. And I saw your play at 48 Hours in Harlem. You want to sit down and have a coffee with me? That moved the needle. So I think it's kind of like a zest and a verve. I find out the people whose work speaks to me. I literally call them up. I then apply for the things that make sense, and hope and a prayer and the luck of it all, and then also the work of it all, which we don't always talk about, but that's the thing that did it. So I guess I'm hesitant to pick one when it's an amalgam.
I love that. I mean, it's just back to that coffee, or maybe now it's a Zoom date or something. But also, I've heard you talk about you research the playwrights that you feel like sound like you or in your artistic scope. So that also has a sense of knowing who you are as an artist.
I mean, kind of. I'm also like, I come from, I graduated from Wellesley College. And my dad is an academic. My mom is an academic. My world is a little researchy. And so I'm gonna sit there and do a little Google search and know who you are. And then I'm gonna read the play and know. So it's also part of my bedrock. And then for me, I saw Dominique's play and I went, oh, her, no more. I don't know that I could have articulated at that point in my career exactly what my voice was, but I was interested in figuring that out. And I knew little things. Like I knew I like to write African women. I like to write queer women. I didn't always know exactly the facet I was always going to do that from, but I knew a little bit. And then over time, I gave myself the grace to grow into the mission that I have.
Because so often we have to define ourselves before we even know who we are.
I am so okay with an I don't know and watch me grow.
Mm. That goes in the chat. I love that. Yeah. I don't know and watch me grow. Beautiful. All right, Hansel, do you have an answer to this question?
I don't want to follow that.
Hansel, you threw it to me.
I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't really think of it as a needle. I think it as it's a network. Not so much like, you know, how it's like it's who you know, whatever. It's like I wasn't a writer until Paula Vogel told me I was. You know, I wasn't a produced playwright until until Mai produced me. It's like it's not just a bit. I mean, yes, it's a business, but it is the engine behind why other people do my work or I don't know, like populate my spheres is I inspire them, or there's something in the world that that speaks to them. And you know, in a way that's not in my control. So I try to not think about that.
Forgive me for piling in here, but Hansel,
Sure.
you are published by a reputable publisher. So your
Yeah.
play's out there.
Well,
good.
that's not
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank
And
you.
more will come once your show is mounted here. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to shut up now.
Thank you. I want to hear your personal review when you've seen it. But in terms of the needle moving, I think for the arts, for theater, it is so not linear, because I know a lot of brilliant playwrights, especially women of color, who did a thing, was amazing, now are obscure, still alive, but not supported, obscure. And it's not necessarily like this, moving a needle towards a thing. It is populating your world with, okay, let's be capitalist, your buyers, but who will feed your product, or who will continue to inspire to write for them, and not just the audience, but I write for Infiniso, my friend. I write for my tribe of actors who just know how to speak the words I write. So in terms of that, that's what's moved me up, in not in the landscape of am I produced or not, but in the quality of the plays I write. Mm-hmm. It's having more and more and more of those like close artists. And that's who I try to like find more and more of and like get deeper with.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I've heard you talk about Wolf Play as your dating play, that before someone would produce it, they would try it on and do these workshops. And then now you have two very big productions of it. What changed the needle there? What turned from workshops into now you're critically reviewed playwright?
I cannot tell you. So Horap took a chance on me. So Horap is an excellent theater that is interested in the impossible. And now that I feel like they are my like home theater. And like this was, I've had like over 15 readings of this play before. It was like the place where it was the play that I workshopped, I did a reading of twice every year. And it's wild that it is now getting a remount, that it's like people like it so much, because when people read it, they were like, I don't get it. But it's also in finding the right actors who do get it and then are able to show it. It is in finding the right, and for actors, I always say, like, find your playwrights, find your writers. It's not just about getting that gig. It's about getting the gig over and over again, because you can inspire a writer to write for you.
Mm-hmm. So again, we're hitting on perseverance, but also I think it's great to hear about plugging these writers groups in these rooms or finding your collaborators or your people, because like you said, we're always growing. So we need those good people around us. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the mysteries of the TV writing room, because I know for a lot of the playwrights who are listening, there's coveted questions about how you get into a TV writing room. So both of you now have supervising producer credits, which I've learned equates to writing credits. Even that's a mystery, the language behind all of that. So coming from a theater background, if you can break down a little bit of this for us and just tell us, what was that invitation like when you got invited into the writer's room?
What do you mean, Nell?
For Hansel and Umfaniso.
Yeah, boy, I have some ideas about that, but I'll leave it to writers. I'm not a writer.
Yes, well, we can ask Nell that question later on, because Nell also works in TV and film. But I just thought, again, I was raving about Pachinko, and actually both of your names are in the credits, which is kind of fun. So are you even in the writer's room together?
She's the homie. We've been in the writer's room together.
Yeah, that's where we met. It's not really a mystery. I think it's also like how people getting selected to be in writers' rooms are diversifying. But just experience of being asked. I like a friend of mine, artistic director, just gave a play to one of the people who were staffing, and they just called me. So I've been very differently staffed than the usual people who are in writers' rooms. But I don't know. I just I feel like Vanessa, you might have more to say about that road, or
for me, it was, I'm just going to speak very baldly. I mean, Sojourners went up, Sojourners in her portmanteau at New York Theater Workshop. It's a similar case to Hansel, where it had this moment of being remounted like less than a year later, which is incredible, and a bit of a New York feat on a new play. And then that did well. And then I had an agent and manager team that sent all my plays. Like, I didn't have to write a spec script. A lot of people who are coming in outside of the theater might have to come up through ranks and rungs that I did not come up through, because I had some plays, and I had some plays that had some press. And that's what got me in the door. I think that those times are changing right now. But I myself, I don't know, Hansel, if you felt it the same way, got in around the time of peak playwright poach. And so I got in off of Sojourners and her portmanteau onto 13 Reasons Why, and they were developing a new African character for their third season. And so that is a wheelhouse that I am very, versed in, and was able to jump on to the third season of that show, learned what TV writing was while within that writer's room, which was a bit of a bear, because I had no experience and no knowledge. So I was sitting in that writer's room writing plays and wondering why we were not observing the word. And learned my lessons, had my hard knocks, and then got hip fast and started moving from there.
Mm-hmm. And how is agency in a TV writing room compared to the stage?
I think it's
Go ahead, Alison.
you get different kinds of agency, you get different kind of compensation. I feel like in a TV room, unless you're the showrunner, it is not yours. So I feel definitely less responsible, and it's a lot more fun. It feels devised theater. And I mean, you would think that you have more agency as a playwright, but you don't in the system that we are in, because you're sort of peddling your wares always, and you think you have power over the thing that you have sold to theaters that will do your production, or directors who have said yes to directing it. But then once they do that, they also have a stake in it. And it's really, I mean, like, the role of a playwright versus a screenwriter really has to do with like who's higher up in the name game. than it is about in TV versus theater.
Mm.
If you have a play and you have a famous actor doing it, their notes can very well mean more than a producer's notes who hasn't produced before. In a TV room, if like I could be literally a recently staffed writer, but if if I'm the only queer woman and they're trying to write a queer story, I have the most agency to, well, it's not always, but this scenario, I know what I'm talking about, and I feel, at least in the Tales room when we were talking about race, it's like I felt listened to.
Mhm, mhm.
May I
I have
interject?
a slightly different, which
May
is
I interject?
interesting. Oh, okay.
Can now can you hold on for 1 second, just because I want to hear Umfaniso answer the question, and then we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
For me, and this, I think that the question that you're asking is incredibly like subjective.
Mhm.
And so inside, I like and I love the word, and I'm not gonna, pretend around it. I find my drive and my kick inside the words that I am writing. And Hansel is completely right. When you are first coming in, usually as a staff writer, you are servicing somebody else's idea, creation, concept. So I'm like, you're like a mercenary for their dream. And sometimes that's great. And then for me, I'm speaking for myself, sometimes I get tired of that. I do like, I like being a pit bull for, the mission that I had in motion. And so I have a tendency to like, I think Hansel is also correct that, there are ways in which theater will like hamstring you and can like kind of get a playwright in a corner, but like, I feel so much more comfortable like kicking and punching there. Because I have to fight for that particular word because I wrote it. And I'm also very, very aware that I'm, writing in a different language. I'm writing for communities that don't always get to see themselves. I'm writing for African immigrants. I'm writing for people that I love. So I will be a bit of a monster and like blow up a theater in a way that I will not behave in TV. And so in TV, sometimes I have had to figure out how to vet the projects I take on, how to ask the showrunner, like how they fight, why they fight that way, and see if I want to be within that dream of theirs so that I don't lose myself. So I have a tendency to go both places. I'm about to fight a crazy battle, and I like to fight it in the theater more. And I kind of look at some of the TV writing going, okay, so what's my endurance level? What's the paycheck? How am I gonna... That's just the real of it for me. As I'm also like shedding like, okay, how do I, ask the right questions so that I am doing the TV projects that make sense for me? And it's getting easier the more I climb up the ladder. And then the last thing I'll say is to just be aware, everyone. I think that there are different careers inside of TV writing in a way that they aren't always inside of theater. So when you come in, that's a different career than when you are mid-tier, is a different career than when you are upper level, is a different career than when you're a producer. Those are different headspaces, different purviews, different jobs. So yeah.
Absolutely. Two things I've never thought of a writing room as devising theater. So that was really interesting, Hansel, that you pointed out and let us see that comparison. And also there seems to be agency in saying no. Mfuni said that you're in a moment now that you can choose your projects.
Oh, I say no with such glee. I say no with such unadulterated joy, going, this is going to bring me more headache than the money is worth. Not today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, girl, but you get a lot of chances.
I do. And you know what? And Hansel is right. She's actually right to poke there, because in 2018, I did not say no.
Mm-hmm.
I did not say no. So that is also, I'm actually happy, Hansel, you said that, because I don't want to like smooth over a corner. Like when I first started on 13 Reasons Why, today I would not say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your honest answers. We're going to plug Wolf Play one more time. Also, you can buy these at the Drama Bookshop. Oh, look at all these great, colorful plays I have. I'm going to read the second saga pretty soon. I've read the first one. It's just so inspiring to get to talk to both of you, and we hope we have more questions for you. But thank you so much. All right. We have a few more questions for Annie and Jonah. These are our business owners. Jonah, if you want to join us on screen, and Annie. Hello. So Jonah, tell us about your company. What made you start Career Activate? And you have something called the Table of Success. Please talk to us about that. It's helped actors double, triple, and even 10 times, 10 times, 10 times the number of auditions they get. And so tell us about that.
Sure. So when I was younger, I was scammed by a talent agency, and it was something I was so ashamed about that I didn't share with anyone for like 10 years. And for many years, acting was like a very expensive hobby. And so for me, the biggest shift for me becoming a working actor was really implementing a lot of the tools and strategies I learned while working in casting, producing, representation, and co-founding a national film festival. So that's why I started Career Activate like a decade ago. So we've helped like thousands of actors from new to Emmy winning create their career breakthroughs, which is really exciting. So you mentioned the Table of Success. Thank you. So we guide actors on how to audition a lot more by strengthening all 4 legs of their table of success. So one of them, one leg is your money-making brand. So I love this analogy. We're all in the Olympics of acting. And if you're in the Olympics, you're probably like a crazy good athlete, but just because you're an Olympic track star doesn't mean that you can place on the podium for tennis, right? So that's because those tennis players specialize in tennis. So as an actor, you want to hone in on your like gold medal roles. Like what can you do that that helps you stand out in your category, and that makes it very difficult for other people to quote unquote compete with you, if that makes sense. So I'll give an example. Our branding expert Landell markets himself as the cerebral ninja. And so he's played like professors, proctors, teachers on so many different TV shows, and he markets himself in that way and under that through line. And so recently he was pinned for 3 TV shows in the same week. So that's one leg. Another one is really growing your network. I saw in the chat, a few people asked about networking and relationship building. And I think for a lot of artists, the word networking feels a bit icky. Can anyone relate? And that used to be how I felt for sure. So I think one of the main reasons is because when people think about networking in the traditional way, they think about what you can get from someone as opposed to what I think should be the focus, which is what can you give? So when you're meeting someone, asking someone from an inquisitive place, like, hey, like, what's something that you're focused on, or what's a big goal of yours over the next couple of months? And then they answer. And the whole time while they're answering, you're asking yourself, okay, how can I support them? Is there someone I can connect them with? Is there a resource I can refer them to? And then sometimes they answer and you're like, I don't know how I would help them. And then you just ask a follow-up question, something like, that's great. What's one thing I can do to support you in that? So really thinking from that place of like, how can I help someone else's goals and dreams come true? Like, how do I support them in their journey? And it's going to be so much easier for you to collaborate with people, for people to want to work with you, because you're someone who's out there giving as opposed to just taking. I'll give like a really simple example of another way to support. So I was at Sundance recently, and I knew it was going to be really cold, and I ordered like a bunch of hand warmers and like toe warmers. And I just carried like a lot of extras in my purse because I was like, you know what, people are going to be freezing. And so I was like, you know what, I'll make friends in lines and I'll offer hand warmers. And one of the guys, and this wasn't my intention, of course, in like helping keep people warm, but one of the directors that I met in line for one of the lounges, we struck up a conversation after I offered him a hand warmer. He was like, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. And then, we developed a friendship. And then a few days later, he like DM'd me on Instagram. He's like, I'd love to have you as a role in one of my upcoming movies. I'd love to work with you. I'm like, oh, thanks. And people like people that are like them and that they really jive with. So networking is like a big part of the industry, as we know, regardless of whether you're an actor, producer, writer, or anything else. And then the other two are reps and pitching. But I've already shared a few things already. So yeah, I just wanted to focus on those first two.
Yeah, and you started Career Activate for a very personal reason. I mean, you're very successful now, and I mean, your credits are endless as everybody on the panel tonight. But it wasn't always that way. Can you just tell us a little bit of why you started it?
Sure. Yeah. I think for me, like when I was 12 and I did Rap in Stiltskin, which was the rapping version of Rumpelstiltskin. Me rapping is a funny thing to watch. I realized like I love making people laugh and feel. And so I fell in love with acting. And so then I heard one of those radio ads. It's like, if you are an actor between the ages of 4 and 84, we have agents looking for you. And I was like, that's me. I'm between 4 and 84. And, I went to the open call, and long story short, I talked my parents into signing up for this agency. They charged like $5,000 for their classes and required me to take those classes in order to be represented. And at the time I was 12, I had no idea what I was doing. And my parents, like half my childhood, I grew up in a trailer in upstate New York. And so money was a bit tight. And so that specific moment in my life, like I was really for a long time very ashamed about. And years later, I realized that like this is so common. This has happened to so many artists, and it's really gross and it's really disgusting. And so I think for me, one of my big whys is like protecting actors and helping actors not go through the struggle. And your struggle will happen, it's inevitable, but to maybe struggle less, to avoid some of these scams, and to really understand how we can take control of the things that are really in our control. And as Nell pointed out earlier, there's definitely things outside of our control for sure. So we don't need to beat ourselves up over that, but it's about taking control of the things that we do have in our control. And so to me, that's what's really exciting about getting to work with artists and seeing them, achieve a level in their career that they didn't even know was possible at some point, because there is just so much self-doubt. And I totally understand those self-worth conversations and those negative thoughts that can really feel like they're drowning us at times. And I think I really believe that if there's something that you want that you don't have, it just means there's something you don't know. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're not enough or good enough or pretty enough or smart enough. It's none of those things that our brain sometimes lies to us about.
That's so empowering. Thank you, Jonah.
Thank
we're
you.
going to put your link to your website in the chat, and I know that you have tips for actors. So one thing we promised today was very practical tips. We wanted you to hear stories and hear people who are walking the walk and talking the talk who are actually doing it. So Annie, give us some practical tips that people can walk away with today.
Yes, Illana. I hope Jessica can put the slide up with the 8 steps that I wanted to talk to you about. Is it up yet? There we go. Great. I'm a career coach and an actress, and I've used these tips for myself to promote my own creative path, as well as all of the actors that I work with. So let's go through these 8. Number 1, define your artistic purpose. I find sometimes the more we are clear about our purpose, the more we can stay passionate with our creative journey and our life path. I have a big one for affirmations, new thought, positive attitude. This also connects us to the unseen forces. And you might define them: the muse, the divine intelligence, divine spirit. One of my mentors, Louise Hay, put it this way: with the universe as my partner, I go from success to success and gratefully share this harvest of good with others. My personal mission statement, I have a longer one, but this is the clearest one. My artistic mission is to evolve creativity in myself and in everyone that I meet and work with. Number 2, visualize daily. I'm a big one about getting up early. I get up between 5:30 and 6 just to do my meditation and my visualization work. So if you can get up 30 minutes early each day and meditate and visualize the artist career that you desire. And when I say visualize, I want you to actually live it. What am I in rehearsal for? Who's there? Who's the creative team? What do I have on in the room? Where do I go? How do I get to the rehearsal? Actually live your artistic life. Number 3, marketing tools. We all know that, especially as performers, you have headshots, resumes, reels. And too often when I work with actors, they'll say to me, well, Annie, this is what I have right now. I don't think that's good enough, because when I look at that, usually what they have in the way of reels and materials does not reflect the level of their artistry. It's a visual profession we're in. So really pay attention to that, to your websites, PR materials, reels of every kind, and hire somebody that can help you actually beef that up if that's not your forte, if you're not a wordsmith, as our great playwrights are. 4, own the power in your words. Your words are a magical wand. It is a reflection of your belief system in yourself and your connection to success and to the industry. So I always make sure that people I work with and myself, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, Annie, what's happening? What are you doing? I have 3 points I am passionate about. And even if it's something like, I'm getting new headshots and I'm being shot by Deborah Lopez, I'm thrilled to be working with her. I'm thrilled that I know specifically what I need because I'm targeting film and TV now. The other thing about words is your own self-talk. It's so important to believe you're successful, to have affirmations and positive thought. Here are a couple of affirmations I'm going to give you. I'm so happy and grateful now that theater, film, TV, commercial bookings come to me in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis throughout 2023. What this does is many times artists believe I can only get work through my agent. So that's one limiting source. They don't view, I can, as all of our panelists have talked about, I can get a job through some actor recommending me. I can get a job like by giving out hand warmers and in building up a conversation with someone. That is really important to me, that we always say multiple sources. And I want it to be this year, 2023, I wanted to find that. Another one of my famous science of mental thought is Wallace Wattles. He's got a very creative name. I always kind of laugh when I say it. But his formula, and he recommends that you do this many times through the day for 1 month. And it goes from the intellect into the subconscious, into your fiber of your cells. And you can transform your view of you as a successful artist. And here's his formula. I can succeed. All that is possible to anyone is possible to me. I am successful. I do succeed, for I am full of the power of success. Too often we'll say, I'll be successful when I book my Broadway show. I'll be successful when my play is on Broadway. I'll be successful when I have the agent of my dreams. Earl Nightingale, another marvelous New Thought mentor, defines success this way. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. So right now, everyone who's on this Zoom is a success because you are in the progressive realization of a worthy goal. You're not limiting success to the end product. Number 5, target projects and industry professionals. You've got to find your creative tribe. And through knowing the artistry, what is my voice? What is my unique type? What do I do better than the other artists out there? And what is my voice? How do I want to change the world with my artistry? So the first step, identify 10 projects, 10 playwrights, 10 stage plays, film, TV projects that you are fit for. You're empowered by that. Then that we need to add to that our support team. We need to add representation, new representation, coaches, classes, specific marketing tools, and a designer to help you create them. So we start with, who do I want to work with? Where do I want to work? What's a match for me? What inspires me? So then number 6, my job is to introduce my talent to the people that are doing these projects. I recommend you begin a daily campaign to introduce your talent to the industry, to the creative team that's working on the projects. You already have some really powerful people to introduce your talent to right here on this panel. It's the casting directors, playwrights, producers, theater and production companies. Craft clearly what your unique talent is, what you have to offer, and why you are a fit for the world that they create. Number 7, fall in love with the process. You must be excited that you are evolving artistry. Wow, how many people out there in the world want to do that and don't know how, and you are doing it. So wake up each day with gratitude. I write out every morning who I and what I'm grateful for. Be passionate about every day what you're doing. Make sure your attitude is filled with excitement. And I personally say, how do I serve creativity today? How can I be of service to other artists today? Be excited to ask the universe, your co-partner, for help manifesting your goals. Listen and expect new ideas and people to be sent to you. The synchronicities that we sometimes don't really wake up and see. And then finally, what is this CEO mindset formula? Well, from the other steps, here's a definition I have. Know your purpose, visualize your dream career, commit to daily work, partner with the universe, and have an unwavering belief in your talent and that you are worthy, enough, and ready for success.
Great. Fantastic, Annie.
Yeah, any one of those can light a fire under you. So that's how I work with artists and how I work myself.
So Annie is going to offer a 1-month full access free trial. We're going to go ahead and put that in the chat. The discount code is LPTW23. We'll send this out in an email tomorrow, but you can get to know Annie and more about her business this way. Fantastic. I'm going to invite all of our panelists to come back on. I'm going to turn it over to my co-producer, Alison, as we head toward the end of this. And we'd love to get some audience questions and get to as many as possible. Another round of applause just for our panelists as we're waiting. Take it over, Alison.
Okay.
Oh, and just to say, I'm so sorry to say this, but Nell did have to leave us. But we will collect questions, and Nell has graciously agreed to answer as many questions as she can. So if you want to continue putting those in the chat, we will do our best to get those answered.
Okay, so one of the questions that came in the chat was, and whoever this speaks to, how do you prioritize what projects you're working on? Let's hear from our playwrights.
There's the what I want pile, and then there's the money pile.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to do one of each.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that for many actors and artists, they're so excited when somebody wants them. They'll say yes without thinking. And too often you stay on the same level. You have to say, is this in line with my purpose? Is this opportunity in line with my goals for 2023? And will it advance my career in the area that I'm focusing on? Or is it just a lateral move? And too many of those lateral moves take away the energy and don't allow for a better opportunity for the universe to send you.
I do best when I'm excited about the piece. And so I try to onboard as much as I'm excited by, but the fiscal reality, I mean, it's absolutely there. And so I go, can I onboard as much that it excites me? And then for the ones that, like when I'm doing things for a little bit more of a financial bend, then it's like, will this hurt me? Does this take me away from my mission? And that's what I will then say a hard line no to.
Okay, great. Yeah, I loved how you were talking earlier about setting the boundaries and saying no. Okay, another one from the chat. What does it mean to have an artistic home?
That's lovely. It's one of the loveliest things for me. Playwrights Realm, New York Theater Workshop, ACT, and I think soon to be the Huntington are home bases for me. And it means that inside of those rooms, those institutions, I have somebody who is a champion. And because they are a champion, I can actually be so honest and real about what I need when I need what I need. And most of the time, what they tell me is okay, because they believe in the vision, they believe in the work I'm putting out, and they also like, when I'm calling a place like my home, they're also kind of taking care not just of the artistry, but of my body as well. And so it's one of the most beautiful things. When I landed at Playwrights Realm and discovered my first home, I was very, very thankful for a place to go to.
Yeah, I think it's like the place where you feel safe. It's the place where you'll do the wacky things. And I think if I found them, I think, by experiencing an alignment of aesthetics, but also of work ethic and just social awareness and like why we do this, like that, when those kinds of things align with a community, I think it just clicks. It's very rare, but and then these people start nurturing, and it's not just the theater, it's not just the artistic director, it is the admin, it is the people who make everything happen, it is the audience base, and I think those are the people who feed the next thing that comes.
Mm-hmm.
I think also the thing that we want is to be seen in wherever our creative home is. We want to be inspired. We want to be collaborative. I always say, if you meet anyone in a class or anything, and you don't leave feeling more empowered, just take a second thought about that. Your creative home is nurturing you. It needs to feed you. It needs to see your potential and always empower you.
That is an incredible segue, because I'd like to invite everyone in our discussion here to turn on their cameras so we can be as a collective community together and see each other's who's here.
Welcome. But we still have more questions that we can ask, right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Does anyone have a driving question that they would like to ask for one of our panelists? Go ahead and raise your hand if so, and unmute yourself. Okay, sometimes that can be a little awkward. That's always that. Let's talk a little bit about process. When someone says, like, what's your process? What does that mean to you?
Is anybody answering this? I mean, I think about process all the time. Like, how do you come up with what you're going to work on? How do you create your ideas? What it does generation, because playwrights are generative artists. So how does that happen? Is there research involved? What do you need to support that sort of process? So, but I actually do have a pressing question for the playwrights, because it just seems like, so, okay, if I'm the CEO of my Artistry and I'm self-producing, which I'm doing, and I'm putting my show up, and my show does amazingly well, because who knew it would do so well? And I have notices that are fantastic, and I have all kinds of great pull quotes, and I've got a 93 on show score, right? Where it was second only to Hamilton in its last week of its tiny little run for $35,000. Then what? I mean, are people actually hiring line producers now? How are we like picking up this tiny little show and moving it forward? Do I need to like come up with some sort of list of people and ask all these people for money? Like, what should we be doing?
It's been a long time for me since I have self-produced. I that's actually how I started, because I didn't think that I was gonna be a playwright. I was on an acting trajectory. And then I started writing. And I had an incredible partner at that time, and my girlfriend actually was producing for me. And I think the thing that helped me, and I think that this is very, very per the artist, but for me, it was the tap into the community. The fact that I tapped into my Black community, into my African community, found people who actually don't always go to the theater. And it was actually easier to do singularly on my own, that kind of work, than do that within an institution, because institutions are always trying to find that. But I knew where those people were because I come from those people. And I brought them in, and that created a buzz. And then that buzz, and with that buzz came like people going, where's the next play? Where's the next play? And bringing their friends. And then it's inside of that buzz, that's when I started inviting theaters. My partner at the time was like, theaters, come and see this. And they would start coming to see, and I didn't get all the way to producing, but I got to like readings. Come and see these readings. And it's inviting the theater institutions into something that was quite set and gelled and had a community movement around it that started to push a thing. So that's how I did it, was I brought in, I think at a certain point I started going, what are all the theaters? What are all the agencies? Who are the people that I can talk to? That's when I was calling Dominique Morisseau and like going, will you come and see this thing that I do? And then it was like the invitations to write inside of another theater came. And then it's like, I'm now circling back to the things that created the buzz now. That's not the thing that got produced, but it got me in the door. So that's what I did.
And Emma, your play was fantastic. So we're all rooting for you to find its home. I think we have time for 2 more questions, Alison.
Yeah, there's one in the chat here from Cassandra. How do you go about, well, I guess we just kind of sort of touched on that, but Jonah, I'm interested in hearing your answer to this. As far as finding collaborators as an actor, what are some really practical ways of doing that?
Sure. So I think going to film festivals, like I mentioned, I just was at Sundance, and finding like your people. I love the references to the tribe and your people. So when you go to film festivals, or if you watch something online, even if you're not in person, if there's a message or a style that you really resonate with, why not reach out to that person? Introduce yourself, give a very specific compliment about what you liked about their work. See if you can get a conversation going in terms of relationship. Oftentimes, I think that compliments, sometimes they can come off a little less genuine, and one of the best ways for it to come across genuine and to really touch the other person is to be as specific as possible. So instead of like, hey, like I love Gemma Jaya at Sundance. So instead of being like, oh, I love Jemajaya. It was great. And let's say I'm talking to the filmmaker. Instead, I'll pick something to focus on. For instance, I was so moved by Jemajaya, and it really made me rethink the relationship I have with my own father. And I actually called him this week, and we had a really amazing conversation. So thank you. So I think there's a difference in how someone receives that. So I think it starts off with you maybe acknowledging the potential future collaborator and starting a dialogue, and maybe even asking a simple question about their process or why they made a certain choice. That's not super difficult to answer, but maybe like a intriguing question.
Love it. Do we have time for one more? One more. This is a question that came up again in the chat. This idea of being out of theater and wanting to come back into it. Is it possible to circle back after 7 years out of it to try it again? I mean, Annie, maybe this is a good one for you.
Yeah, I just actually responded to that. And I've often said, I can work in this career longer than any career. I can be a woman in a hospital bed that does not have any lines and still work as a performer. So I work with people of all ages. And actually, I am so passionate about working with people that want to come back into the business, that have raised families, I've worked with district attorneys, police officers, and inspired them to have a career they always wanted. So I never say you're too old, you're too anything. Let's do it. But you've got to actually be serious. Take a look in the mirror. Where am I now after 7 years? Are my marketing tools reflective of that? What do I want? What's my uniqueness? And craft, like Jonah was saying, I'm a big, words, power in your words. You've got to tell someone why you're a fit, why you love these playwrights, what you saw in them when you went, what inspired you, as we're talking about. So that all helps you reinvigorate a career. And I applaud you. I say, yeah, let's do it.
Thank you so much. I want to also invite all of our panelists to plug your work in the chat. I didn't even get to say what's next for you, because of course we're all inspired by you and want to follow your careers. Just to go off script for a moment, I'm very moved right now to see this community. This has been my favorite part of the conversation, to all be in the same space together. Thank you for the honesty and the candidness from our panelists today. Some of these questions are hard, but we look at you as like where you are in your careers as aspirational. And I know that's hard to hear when you're the person living it, but please know that's heartfelt. So thank you for your time, your energy, your advice. I hope everyone listening feels empowered and took something away that can maybe change your own mentality of how you're feeling about your career. It's a hard business, and listen, soak up everything you can and take all the advice that you can. If you want to join the league or you have a question for membership, we'll throw that in the chat one more time. I just want to thank my co-producers, Alison Chace and Annie Chadwick. Our amazing stage manager. Can't do anything without a great stage manager, and that's Jessica Dell Beni. She's been working the chat all night. I think you should get your own round of applause. And our grant sponsors. Also, thank yous to Actors Connection. This is when I was going to ask you to unmute, but you're already here. So if we can all just loudly give an applause to these amazing panelists. With all that love in the chat, they all deserve it. Join us for our next professional seminar on April 20th. You can email admin@theaterwomen.org to sign up for our next newsletter so you can hear about our next seminar. And thank you.
Illana, I have to say, you are the CEO of this event. She has been on it, has really guided us, and has worked on the technical aspects of this Zoom with all of us. And my hat's off to you, CEO girl.
Thank you. I wear that with pride, and I am inspired by everybody in this room. Thank you so much. Feel free to say hello to each other. We'll keep the Zoom chat going for about 5 more minutes, the Zoom room open. And thank you again to our panelists.